is that darn Cardi Jew? They're making us ravenous look horrible.
If you've enjoyed this program, please click like and subscribe.
Ani Yehovah Ha'akam Elohim B'Oranam Hamahe Yitzhak Rabahe Yaakov.
Shalom, this is Reb ben-Emmett again with another exciting pre-sequel series called the Judah Maccabees Edition. It's a documentary, it's about Jewish history, it's about all the things that happened that led up to the Maccabean revolt against the evil Greek emperor of his time. I just want to introduce this before I let the pages of the past go by, because these are past videos. Just because they're in the past does not make them any more wonderfully sweet. I did the research then. I don't think I can prove anything because I did a lot of extensive research, read a lot of books, a lot of research online about everything that I'm about to present to you. Anyway, this is the time of Hanukkah very soon. So I want to wish you a very happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, Hanukkah Sameach. Whatever has happened in your life, I just want you to focus on those brighter moments that happened in the past, led to the moments we enjoy today, that we can all say, Baruch Hashem.
Hello again and shalom. Welcome to Hanukkah Prequel 2, version 2. Yes, this is the second prequel to the Hanukkah holiday. The Festival of Lights. Yes, the Festival of Lights. And our hero of old, Judah of Mattathias, or Judah of Maccabee, the Maccabeans. Yes, the Maccabeans. Great song, by the way, out there called the Maccabean. The first prequel, I was talking about the history leading up to the time of Judah Maccabee, the history of Alexander the Great. You know, a great king or emperor of Greece. He expanded the territory of Greece from Egypt all the way to India, absorbed Persia, which was previously known as Babylon, expanded and unified the entire Greek Empire. However, I would be amiss if I didn't talk about prophecy. Yes, prophecy, folks. The prophet Daniel, he was known as God's beloved, his Hamud, per se. Daniel was a very young person, maybe a child, that was taken into Babylon in exile when King Solomon's temple, the first temple, was destroyed. Okay, the king of Babylon rose up in power approximately 19 years before the first temple was destroyed. The city of Jerusalem was laid siege for 18 years, and it was destroyed in the 19th year. During that time, the prophet Jeremiah, the weeping prophet per se, huge book. I encourage you to read it. I'm going to start with Jeremiah 25:12 because it has a nice connection point to Daniel. Okay, the reason why I'm mentioning from the Tanakh these prophets here, because I want to show you a historical timeline, because again, Hanukkah is all about Jewish history. Okay, and again, I focus on science here not just theological beliefs. We all have various opinions, but this is about Hashem's opinion in the Holy Tanakh and the prophets. Daniel is misconstrued by atheists and some Christians alike, saying that he actually lived out his life during the time of Judah Maccabee. No, he was in Babylon 19 years after the rise of power of Babylon. He was exiled with other Jews and other prophets. You remember Ezekiel? Yeah, Ezekiel was on the river of Kabar. They actually knew each other. Yeah, they knew each other. So here we go. Bear with me. I have the Art Scroll version of the Tanakh. So if you'd like to reference this, you can look it up on ash.com. They have that variant. Chabad.com has another variant of that. The same Hebrew, folks. This is slightly different English translation. So here we go. We're turning to Jeremiah 25:12, and I'm going to read it. It says, and it shall be at the completion of 70 years, I will visit upon the king of Babylon and upon that nation, says the Lord, their iniquity, and upon the land of the Chaldeans. Remember, Abraham was from the land of Chaldeans, and I will make it for everlasting desolations. So here's Jeremiah. It's two different time frames. Jeremiah lived during the time of the final stages of Jerusalem's existence, before the city was destroyed and the temple was destroyed. Okay. Jeremiah, incidentally, I believe, was exiled to Egypt. So he remained behind. And then Daniel and many others, essentially priestly people connected to the tribe of Levi, Benjamites, Judah, people that were very observant. They did not fight back the king of Babylon as Jeremiah warned them not to. Many Jews did try to fight back the king of Babylon and were massacred because of that. Okay. There was a time, a lot of false prophets. But anyway, here Daniel was carried off into Babylon. And if you've heard the story about 70 weeks, 490 years and all of this, yes, you hear Christians talk about this all the time, but what does it really mean? I will attempt to explain this to you. And it's not a very easy thing to talk about. But first of all, remember, the Hebrew calendar system is a little bit different than the Roman system, okay? There's not the solar cycle. That's not exactly the same as a lunar cycle. That's why we have the 13 months sometimes, the second Adar. That's why. So there's no fuzzy math here. The numbers work out. So I want to begin with Daniel chapter 7, a very famous prophecy here. It uses a lot of metaphors, a lot of symbology, but I think you understand it from hindsight. It's 2020. I'm going to read part of this here. It's the first year of King Belshazzar, king of Babylonia. Daniel saw a dream and visions, night visions, in his head upon his bed. So I don't know if he went into a trance or when he went to sleep at night, and he had the greatest Steven Spielberg movie of all time being played in his mind. And he was a young man. And here is the major parts of the dream here. He saw in his vision at night, and that behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring up in the great sea. Four immense beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. These four beasts, folks, are actually pointing to four different nations rising and falling, rising to power and falling from power, and a transition between the rise and fall of power. The first was like a lion. Of course, this is Babylon, and it had eagle's wings, and is lofty. Babylon was the greatest superpower of all time, and King Babylon thought he was God. I was watching as its wings were suddenly plucked, and it was removed from the earth, and it stood upon 2 feet like a man. Okay, the loftiness of Babylon was brought down to reality, essentially. And it was given a human heart. Okay, you're not a god, you're just a man. Then behold, another beast, a second one, is similar to a bear. A bear, folks, is Greece. Okay. It was placed on one side, and there were 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. These were 3 different kings. And this is what they said to it: "Arise and devour much flesh. After this I was watching, behold, and another beast like a leopard, with 4 bird wings on its back, and the beast had 4 heads, and it was given a dominion." Okay, I was amiss here. I was speaking about the 4 animals here. The lion was Babylon. And moving forward here, the second one was similar to a bear. This is Persia. Okay, I'm rushing us. And then the third beast was like a leopard. Now it's Greece, of Medes. And it noticed that the leopard had 4 birds' wings on its back, and the beast had 4 heads. These 4 heads essentially were the 4 generals after Alexander the Great was assassinated, or he died at age 32. We spoke about this. So remember, the numbers here, as far as wings and heads, everything point to kings and of certain dominion. Moving forward here. In Daniel chapter 8, verse 21, it begins here: "The he-goat, the kingdom of Greece, and the large horn that was between his eyes, is his first king." This is Alexander the Great. "As for the broken one, in whose place 4 arose, 4 kingdoms will arise from one nation, but lacking in strength." These are remember, with Alexander the Great, this is a segue from my first video of Prequel 1 to Hanukkah. I'm sorry, Prequel 1 to Hanukkah. Alexander the Great, as a young man, 32, died, maybe assassinated. 4 great generals, and they essentially divided up the spoils of what was left of the empire. And they actually were very competitive and very adversarial. Again, the Greek Empire was very large and vast real estate territory. So these 4 generals essentially became 4 kings. I want to bring up the
4 Greek generals: Antigonus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seleucus.
He was known as the tyrant that led up to the rise of the Maccabees, the Jewish zealots or whatever, in Israel in Judea at that time, of the story of Hanukkah, where it began. He's the one that instigated the Jews rebelling against Greek or Hellenist culture, leading up to the Hanukkah story. I don't want to get too forward here. I want to focus on the prophecies here. So you see, and Daniel actually told about the rise of the 4 beasts, 4 nations. But we're talking about the leopard. We're talking about the rise of Alexander the Great, and then his fall, and how it was divided up in 4 parts. Now we're getting to the controversial part. We like controversy, right? 490 years. What does that mean? Okay, Daniel was God's beloved, his Hamad, and the angel Gabriel actually interpreted his night visions for him. Essentially told him that, everything is in 7s. You can read in Leviticus. It's talking about how judgments would be handed out 7 times 7 or whatever. That's exactly what this means here. They use 7 weeks, whatever. Essentially, this is talking about times of year. 490 years. The first 70 years was for Babylonian exile. That's the first judgment stage. It wasn't until the Persians rose into power. Actually, Belshazzar was assassinated by a Mede or whatever, and then Darius the Mede rose into power. Then his son, King Cyrus, actually had empathy for the Jewish people and their plight. This is long after Daniel, in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah. You can read about this. This is not germane to the discussion, but essentially, after the first 70 years, folks, the next 70-year period is when the Jews were allowed, the Jews that wanted to go, not all of them wanted to go. I mean, life was pretty good in Persia, and, in that time, how you live in the diaspora so long you forget about being Jewish. But the truly Orthodox Pharisaic kind of Jews wanted to return. They aspired to go back to Zion. Okay. So they were allowed to go back to Judea during the 70 years during troubled times. So you do the math and it comes up here. So exactly 420 years, this one prophecy points out that 420 years, the first stage, until the Hasmonean temple, the second temple, King Herod the Great, built a temple that was 420 years, approximately, and that was about 2,000 years ago. 70 years after that, became the 490 years, as when Emperor Titus destroyed the second temple in 70 CE. So, a lot of information here. I encourage you to go through it yourself. Chapters Daniel 7 through 10 explains this information in detail. I do encourage you to get a very trustworthy commentary to go along with this and explain some of this. But essentially, in wrap up here, we talked about Alexander the Great. This is a historical record. The writings of Josephus talk about it. There are many stories and talking about this, many books and many secular historians wrote about this. We don't doubt that Alexander the Great existed. Okay. But what's fascinating about this, before Alexander the Great was even born, a Jewish prophet, Daniel, actually prophesied about Alexander the Great. So you see how the connections here, point, prophecy, God speaking to a prophet like Daniel, talking about historical things that will happen far in the future. 70 years of exile in Babylon, 70 more years in troubled times, during Persian, King Cyrus. We'll talk about this later. And of course, and more time leading up to Judah Maccabee until the second temple is destroyed in the full 490 years of judgment. So where are we at here? Hanukkah is coming up December 23rd, and we're going to talk about Hanukkah too. Hopefully this will help make a little bit more sense. I apologize for any unintended rambling here, but this is very good, very delicious and juicy information, Bible prophecy, especially when you can connect it to real, measurable, quantifiable, historical evidence. That's really sweet. Well, Shalom Aleichem. Thank you for your attention. Again, please turn to Daniel and read about this yourself, and then go online or go to your local public library and read about Alexander the Great. The Jews were always there in the midst of it. Am Yisrael Hai, Am Yisrael Hai. Baruch Hashem.
May Yehovah Elohim bless you and keep you, and happy Hanukkah.